So excitement is building as work is set to begin on the world's largest radio telescope. That's the Square Kilometer Array, co-hosted in the Karoo. Construction at the intergovernmental project is set to begin this year. Once completed, the network will be the most advanced radio telescope network in the world. The total cost of the project is around 35 billion rand, and it is expected to yield jobs and, of course, contribute to development in the sector as well. But what is the reason behind this mammoth undertaking? Astrophysicist at the University of the Western Cape, that's Professor Lerothodi Leeuw, joins us now for more on the story. Prof, it's great to have you with us on the program. And let me just say, speaking to an astrophysicist, we don't get the opportunity very often here on the program. I already feel way out of my depth. Perhaps, as a start, for the sake of our viewers and people who are sort of hearing about the story, perhaps on the show for the first time, why is this such an important project, not only insofar as placing our country on the map in the sector, but for what the project could yield in the future?
It's great to be on the program. The project has some exciting potential in terms of science, in terms of engineering, and as you already mentioned, in terms of the impact on society. In terms of science, it will answer some of the questions to do with how the universe began, how some important components of the universe got to be where they are, and those include stars, those include galaxies that make up these stars, they include magnetic fields in the universe, because these magnetic fields are some of the things that actually help the universe form, evolve, and be in the state that it is in. So some really interesting questions scientifically. They also include questions about life in the universe, how it has evolved, and that includes intelligent life, if there is intelligent life elsewhere, and such intelligent life maybe has communication. We would be looking for signals from such communication. So all these really big, broad science questions this telescope will try and answer.
Incredible. So this will be the most advanced radio telescope network in the world once it is completed. Which network does it replace, Prof? So
it is called the Square Kilometer Array because it will have a collecting area. So if you imagine this area being something like a bucket, that would, a bucket collecting raindrops, this would be this big bucket collecting radio emission from the cosmos. And the Square Kilometer Array then makes it the biggest collecting area. Here in South Africa, it will replace its precursor, which is called Meerkat. It's the telescope South Africa built to demonstrate its commitment and its capability in this area. And that's already in the Karoo. This telescope, it has 60 dishes. The first phase of the Square Kilometer Array will already have twice the size of Meerkat. Meerkat itself has replaced telescopes in the United States, one called VLA in New Mexico, and so it will be leading internationally, once it's complete. And it is, of course, a telescope built intergovernmentally, as you already mentioned.
So this is an intergovernmental project hosted in South Africa and Australia. How does that joint effort, how does it work practically?
It's been a very, very intriguing effort. And indeed, the big milestones we are talking about at the moment is that the intergovernmental agreements have been signed. So the organization itself was formalized last year around June, where the organization, the intergovernmental organization that will run this telescope was formalized. And essentially as a treaty, that's how big this is. And that body then authorized the plans for the constructions of the telescope and said contracts can start to be signed to build the telescope. In these last 6 months, some of those contracts have been awarded, more than 24 or so. And as we go into this new year, further contracts will be awarded, and as you mentioned, will be then starting to roll out construction. And some of the earlier constructions will include infrastructure, the backbone of this telescope, things like roads, power, communication, fiber that will help with the communication for that. And then there's also been things like professional services, contracts awarded, software contracts. Those are the earlier contracts that have been awarded, and the early phase of the construction that we'll see.
So, Prof, this telescope, once it is completed, it's incredibly sensitive. I'm told 50 times more sensitive, 10,000 times faster than any existing radio telescopes.
Yes. So 10 times faster is because the science that this telescope will do includes surveying the entire sky. So looking at cosmic emission from around the entire sky. And because you are trying to cover this huge area, you need to be really fast. And then the sensitivity has to do with how faint the emission it will be able to detect. So we want to be able to detect the very, very faintest emission to, deep in the universe, near where the universe began. We want to determine this very, very faint emission, for example, from planets that may be forming around other stars, in our galaxies, but possibly also in galaxies outside. And then it will also have a very high resolution, and resolution has to be able, has to do with being able to separate things out so that you can see all the details of these particular sources in the cosmos that we'll be looking at. So it will have high sensitivity, high resolution, and be very, very fast, as you mentioned.
The radio telescopes themselves will be located in the Karoo. Prof, you'll correct me if I'm wrong here. So they'll be located in the Karoo, in the Northern Cape, but there will be outstations, not only in other parts of our country, but in other countries as well.
Yes. So the core of the telescope will be in the Karoo, and then there will be these outstations across South Africa, but also in other neighboring countries here in Southern Africa, all the way to West Africa in Ghana. And the outstations are to improve this resolution that we talked about. So the further the dishes are from each other, the better they can resolve all these emission that will be coming from the cosmos. Mm-hmm. So spreading it out like that across Africa will help increase the resolution of the telescope. Mm-hmm.
In my limited knowledge of the field, that does make sense to me, Prof. We're talking about building set to begin this year. When do we see the completion of the project, I suppose, is the next big question.
Yes, I should also say, while we get excited about construction starting now, to really realize how much work it has taken to get up to here. I mean, I first heard about the Square Kilometer Array when some 20 years ago, when I was still a PhD student. And maybe just after South Africa hosted the whole World Cup, we were hearing about how South Africa won the bid to be able to host this telescope. So that's like more than 10 years ago. And now we've just had this intergovernmental agreement signed just 3 months ago the actual agreement between South Africa and this intergovernmental organization to say that now we authorize you to go ahead and build, and you should be able to build within these specs, was just happening. So it's taken so much work already, more than 20 years. And then we're going through this infrastructure phase. The first telescopes will be on site in 2024, the first 4. And then after that, it should be in about what we call, a factor of 2. So from 4 to 16, 32, 64, as this telescope rolls out into the future.
Professor Lerothodi Leeuw, University of the Western Cape astrophysicist, thanks so much for breaking it down for us here on the AM Report.